In the name of Allah. Hello friends. In this clip, you will get to know the life of sheep briefly, and in the next clip, we will go to goats. If you love animals and enjoy these clips, don't forget to like and subscribe. Well, let's go. Sheep are one of the four-legged mammals and belong to the pair of salmons, which means their hooves have two toes. It belongs to the group of light ruminants, or stomachs, and belongs to the bovine family. Our human ancestors have domesticated and raised this animal to use its wool, milk, meat, and skin. A sheep is smaller than a cow. Sometimes, due to genetic mutations, some ewes, female sheep, have small horns. And in some breeds of rams, male sheep, sometimes we see the presence of four horns. But generally, females are hornless and males are hornless or double-horned. Sheep exhibit strong group behavior. Sheep do not like to be alone, that is why the flock is in large or small groups together. There is no sign of dominance in a flock of grazing sheep. In small domestic herds, sheep compete to digest small amounts of food by pushing and shoving rather than loudly. Herd behavior is an advantage for non-predatory animals. The strongest animals go to the center of the herd, which gives them greater protection from predators. It can also be a disadvantage when food resources are limited and sheep are almost as prone to overgrazing pastures as goats. For example, different breeds of sheep have different herd structures. Merinos are a tight herd and rarely form subgroups. They graze close to each other and disperse into subgroups only under severe food shortages, when age and sex groups are separated. Southdowns usually form several subgroups and are closely related when grazing, but not when camping. Dorset horns always form many subgroups. Herding behaviors can be common in English sheep breeds. Because these behaviors are so noticeable, sheep breeders have even given them names. A sheep that strays from the herd is called an outlier. Far from the safety of the flock, this sheep tries to graze elsewhere. This is probably because he has a weakness that prevents him from getting enough forage when he is with other sheep. Another sheep, bellwether, leads the others. Traditionally, it was a castrated, or wetting, ram with a bell hanging from a thread around the neck. The tendency to act as an aloof individual, ring bell, or fight for the middle of the herd remains with the sheep throughout adulthood. Sheep follow a similar reproductive strategy to other herd animals. A flock of ewes is generally mated with a ram, which has either been selected by the farmer or dominated through physical competition with other rams, in wild populations. The lifespan of sheep in the best living conditions is usually 10 to 12 years. But less domestic sheep reach this age because a large number of them are ready for slaughter at the age of 4 to 5 months and are consumed by humans. But wild sheep have a long life if they are not hunted. Sheep are herbivores, meaning their diet does not include meat. They usually eat seeds, grass, and plants. According to ADW, like all ruminants, they have multi-cavity stomachs that are adapted to ferment cellulose before digestion. To fully digest their food, Sheep return their food to their mouths, eat and swallow. This returned food is called cud. Some sheep do not need much water. For example, desert sheep get most of their water from eating plants, according to the Los Angeles Museum of Natural History. Diet digestion and digestion. Sheep grazing is a social behavior such as sheltering and camping. Sheep usually have 2 grazing periods, early in the morning and again in the afternoon. Morning grazing time tends to be earlier than later period. Grazing time can take between 5 and 10 hours a day, depending on the type of sheep and available pastures and water. Sheep are exclusively herbivorous mammals. Like all ruminants, sheep have a complex digestive system consisting of 4 compartments that allows them to break down cellulose from stems, leaves and seed coats into simpler carbohydrates. When sheep graze, the vegetation is chewed into a lump called a bolus, which is then transported to the first chamber, the rumen. The bolus is periodically regurgitated into the mouth as a means of chewing and further salivation. Manure chewing is an adaptation that allows ruminants to graze early in the morning and then fully chew and digest food later. This is useful because cuddling, which requires lowering the head, makes sheep vulnerable to predators, whereas chewing cud does not. During fermentation, the rumen produces gas that must be expelled. After fermentation in the rumen, the food is transferred to the retina and the rumen. Certain feeds such as grains may pass through the rumen completely. Following the first 3 chambers, food enters the larynx before being processed by the intestines for final digestion. The larynx is the only one of the 3 chambers that resembles the human stomach, which is the only one that absorbs nutrients for use as energy, and is sometimes called the true stomach. Sheep need a lot of water. They also prefer to drink from running water such as rivers and streams rather than stationary sources. Sheep also need clean water and may avoid drinking water covered with foam and algae. Male sheep fight with females for the right to mate, and the strongest are usually the only ones allowed to mate. The mating season, called the rut, occurs in the fall. Female sheep are pregnant for about 5 months after mating. They usually give birth to 1 or 2 young at a time in the spring. A baby sheep is called a lamb. Lambs can walk just a few minutes after birth, although they are often dependent on their mother for the first 4 to 6 months of their lives. They are weaned at about 4 to 6 months of age and become sexually mature at about 1.5 to 5 years of age, depending on the species and gender. For example, purebred male sheep do not become sexually mature until 5 years of age, while females reach sexual maturity at 1 or 2 years of age. Domestic sheep were first domesticated from wild species of sheep at least 5000 BC. Their remains have been found in many areas of early human settlement in the Middle East, Europe, and Central Asia. Domestic sheep are raised for wool, milk, and meat. Mature mutton is called mutton. Immature animals are called lambs. It is estimated that there were more than 1 billion sheep in the world at the beginning of the 21st century. Australia, New Zealand, China, India, The United States, South Africa, Argentina, and Turkey are the major global producers of sheep meat. These countries, which have a large area of pastures, are its main producers. Sheep were among the first animals to be domesticated. There are more than 10,000 breeds of domestic sheep. All these mammals have legs and even toes. Their hoof is clawed or divided into 2 fingers. They are also ruminants. Their stomachs have several cavities that aid in the digestion of food. Most sheep have large, twisted horns made of keratin, like fingernails. Most people are familiar with sheep as woolly farm animals that say BAA. But domestic sheep are only one type of sheep. There are also 5, or 6 depending on the source, wild sheep. According to Suzanne Chounian, a sheep and goat specialist at Western Maryland University's Center for Research and Education, it is estimated that there are more than 10,000 distinct breeds of domestic sheep worldwide, so they vary in shape and size. Some experts, such as the International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, treat the wild ancestor of the domestic sheep, the Uryale, as a separate species, Ovis orientalis. Others, such as the ADW and the Integrated Taxonomic Information System, ITIS, classify them as 2 subspecies of the arch Ovis. Classification: sheep are part of the Bovidae family, which includes antelopes, cattle, and goats. Sheep can usually be distinguished from their similar cousins by their horns. Goats typically have straight horns and sheep have rounded horns. Also, male goats have beards while male sheep do not. According to the IUCN Red List of Threatened Species, most sheep species are listed as least concern with no threat of extinction. However, the Uryale, classified here as Ovis orientalis, with 8 subspecies, found in the Mediterranean and Middle East, is listed as vulnerable. Their population has decreased by at least 30% in 24 years, which is caused by hunting, interbreeding and habitat destruction. Argalis, Ovis ammon, which lives throughout Central Asia, is on the list of vulnerable countries due to significant population decline, but probably at a rate of less than 30% in 3 generations, due to poaching and competition with livestock. Danger has been placed. According to ADW, the largest species of sheep is the Argali sheep, Ovis ammon. This Central Asian species weighs 408 pounds. It is 3 to 4.1 feet tall at the shoulder and 4 to 6.2 feet long from head to tail. Bighorn sheep, Ovis canadensis, of the Rocky Mountains are similar in size. Males are typically 5 to 6 feet long, head to tail. According to ADW, females are about 4.9 feet. Males weigh 262 to 280 pounds, females weigh 116 to 200 pounds. Bighorn rams have enormous horns that weigh more than all the bones in their body, about 30 pounds. Dall's sheep, Ovis dalli, live in Alaska and Yukon. They are the only mountain sheep with thin horns. Males have shiny, twisted horns, but females have slender horns. Males weigh 160 to 249 pounds. Ewes are 101 to 110 pounds, males are 4.2 to 5.9 feet long. Females are 4.3 to 5.3 feet. According to the Ultimate Ungulate website, the Siberian sheep, Ovis navicola, lives in eastern Russia. It is 4.6 to 5.3 feet long and 3.1 to 3.7 feet at the shoulder. It weighs 132 to 164 pounds. If a sheep rolls onto its back, it cannot get up without help. The fallen sheep is called shedding. If not restored to normal, they may become distressed and die within a short period of time. Once they are on their feet, they may need support for a few minutes to ensure their stability. This disease occurs mostly in pregnant ewes and short and large sheep with full wool. Most of the sheep's milk produced around the world is cheese, such as feta, ricotta, pecorino, romano, and roquefort. The most famous sheep is probably Dolly, the first mammal to be cloned. She was born in Scotland in 1996, gave birth to 6 lambs and died in 2003 after developing a lung infection. He was stuffed and put on display at the Royal Museum of Scotland. They were among the first animals that were domesticated and are bred all over the world. Wild sheep also live around the world in the Middle East, Asia, Central Europe, and North America, mostly in mountainous areas. Bighorn sheep live in the Rocky Mountain region of North America. Desert sheep live in Death Valley, California, as well as in Nevada, Texas, and northern Mexico. They can live in desert mountains as high as 4,000 feet. Orioles can live even higher. According to ADW, they are found in Asia and the Middle East in grasslands at elevations up to 19,690 feet. Rams, which are the male breed of sheep, usually have small horns, and in some breeds of sheep, ewes also have small horns on their heads. Horns are considered a means of defense for animals. Mountain sheep usually have larger horns. Every winter, a set of sheep's horns grows a ring. By counting the rings, the scientist can determine the age of the male sheep. In cows, horns are usually removed because the growth of the cow is faster, although the technology of cattle breeding has changed a lot, just like the new technologies of sheep breeding. Sheep are social, but usually only with their own sex. Males have their own herds called bachelor herds. These flocks usually have 5 to 50 rams at a time. Females live in nursery herds. A nursery flock can have 5 to 100 members, including adult females and their juveniles. Male sheep fight for dominance in their group. According to National Geographic, some ram each other at 32 miles per hour. Dominance is achieved when a man submits. This process can take hours. Interesting facts. Sheep have very interesting characteristics. For example, their fur grows forever and their pupils are rectangular. Don't let the term sheep, often used to describe people who carelessly follow others, fool you. Sheep are intelligent animals and are able to go beyond grazing pastures. 1. Permanent growth of wool. In 2004, Shrek the Merino sheep hid in a cave for 6 years so he wouldn't have to shear. But when he was cornered and had his hair cut long on New Zealand national television, there was enough wool to make 20 men's suits. In 2015, a sheep named Chris was found in Canberra, Australia, shedding 89 pounds of wool. According to Dave Thomas, Emeritus Supervisor of Sheep at the University of Wisconsin, Madison, unlike wild sheep, or hair sheep, breeds that are naturally shed, domestic breeds such as Merino continue to grow wool. A pound of wool can make up to 10 miles of thread. A sheep, depending on the breed, can produce between 2 and 30 pounds of wool per year. 2. They have nearly 360 degrees of vision. Sheep have rectangular pupils that give them amazing peripheral vision. It is estimated that their field of view is between 270 and 320 degrees. Humans average about 155 degrees and depth perception. These are good assets when you are a hunting animal. It is like an all-encompassing vision for the eye. 3. The upper lip of the sheep has a prominent groove that divides the left and right parts and is called the philtrum. Sheep are very selective grazers, preferring leaves and blades over stems, and their philtrum helps them get close to the ground, an advantage over other ruminants that cannot go down to the ground. 4. If the sheep fall on their back, they cannot return to their original position. Sheep that are heavily pregnant, overweight, or have heavy wool can have a very hard time righting themselves if they somehow end up on their backs. There is even a term for the condition. They are called shed sheep. So if you see one in this situation, they are probably stressed and anxious, so find a farmer and help them get back on their feet. 5. There are some deep historical ties between sheep and U.S. presidents. Sheep on the White House lawn. George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and James Madison all raised sheep. Madison vowed to wrap her coat in her own wool. Woodrow Wilson kept a herd in the White House during World War I to keep the grass as a cost-cutting measure and to support the war effort. 6. Production of candles from sheep fat. Another thing you may not know is that sheep fat is called tallow. It is cooked and refined and used to make candles. Another use is in soap conversion compounds. 7. Multi-horned and smooth wool gene. Some breeds of sheep, such as the Hebridean and Navajo, have the polycyrate gene, which means they have the ability to grow 2, 4, and even 6 horns. Rika sheep are unique in that both male and female sheep have long spiral horns. Najdi sheep have long and silky hair instead of curly hair like other sheep breeds. 8. Sheep can heal themselves. They use herbs and other substances that otherwise have no nutritional value for them to prevent or treat diseases and teach their children to do the same. 9. Sheep are emotionally complex animals. Sheep are capable of experiencing a wide range of emotions just like humans. Many studies have emphasized the sheep's ability to feel fear, anger, boredom, sadness, and happiness. Sheep can not only feel basic emotions, but their emotions can be very complex and involve interactions between emotions and cognition. For example, believe it or not, scientific studies have shown that sheep can be both pessimistic and optimistic. When they are stressed or isolated, they show symptoms of depression similar to those of humans by lowering their heads and avoiding positive actions. Sheep make different sounds to communicate with each other. 10 sheep was one of the first successful blood donors. In 1667, Frenchman Jean-Baptiste Denis performed the first animal-to-human transfusion, transferring blood from a sheep to a 15-year-old boy and a laborer, both of whom survived the process. Richard Lohr, an English physician, performed the first successful injection of animal blood on a dog in 1665. 11 sheep for making Schmallenberg virus vaccine. Schmallenberg virus causes a disease that causes deformities in the offspring of sheep and cattle. In 2013, sheep were used to develop a vaccine for the Schmallenberg virus, a disease that causes disfigurement in the offspring of sheep and cattle. The vaccine was approved last year. A sheep regurgitates its food and reaches the chewed food, thus enabling the 4 separate chambers of its stomach to fully digest grasses and other grasses eaten. These animals prefer to graze on grass or short, fine leguminous plants, although they will also consume tall, coarse, or brushy plants. They pick plants closer to the roots than cattle, so care must be taken to ensure that sheep do not overcrowd the area. Sheep are basically timid animals that tend to herd and have almost no protection against predators. They mature at about 1 year of age, and most of them breed when they reach the age of about 1.5 years. Most births are singletons, although ewes sometimes have twins. Lambs stop breastfeeding and begin to graze at around 4 or 5 months of age. An adult sheep has 32 teeth. Like other ruminants, 8 incisors are located in the lower jaw, and in front of a hard, toothless pad in the upper jaw. They bite and remove vegetation. Sheep do not have canines. Instead, there is a large gap between the anterior teeth and the anterior Asiatic teeth. By the age of 4, when all the adult teeth have erupted, the age of sheep can be seen from their front teeth, as a pair of front teeth erupts each year. The front teeth are gradually lost as sheep age, making it more difficult for them to feed and hindering the animal's health and productivity. For this reason, domestic sheep in normal pastures start to decrease from 4 years of age. Sheep do not have front teeth in their upper front jaw. Sheep can cool their blood using a heat exchange system in their brain. Scanning animals using this system saves up to 80% of their daily water consumption. In a structure at the base of their brain, the artery divides into many fine blood vessels as blood flows to the brain. Heat from the arterial blood can leave these tiny vessels and be transferred to the cooler venous blood leaving the brain, which is then cooled by evaporation in the sheep's nose. This cooling system does not guarantee protection against overheating of the brain, but is actually a water-saving mechanism that works by cooling the hypothalamus, the body's thermostat responsible for panting and sweating in hot weather. He does. Sheep have a very good sense of smell and, like all species of their genus, they have scent glands right in front of the eyes and between the legs. The purpose of these glands is unclear, however, those on the face may be used in breeding behaviors. Interdigital glands may also be used in reproduction, however, alternative reasons such as secretion of waste material or scent markers to help lost sheep find their flock have also been suggested. A study published in the National Geographic magazine showed that sheep can remember the faces of 50 other sheep for more than 2 years. Sheep are excellent swimmers and are known to cross rivers and lakes in search of better pastures. Sheep are very intelligent and have the same brain power as monkeys. They are better known for solving problems in order to obtain food resources. In 2004, sheep were rolling over cattle grids to enter the orchards for grazing. Ram. A ram is called a male sheep. Usually, rams are taller and have a bigger body than female sheep, and they have more delicious meat. For this reason, ram is mostly used in matters related to the sacrifice. Of course, there are exceptions, and in some species of sheep, ewes are bigger. Rams usually have ring horns in the shape of a circle that is not complete. The tips of the horns are sharp and empty inside. Some species of sheep do not have horns, and to recognize a male sheep or a ram, you cannot be satisfied with the presence of horns alone. The best way to distinguish male and female sheep is their reproductive system. Ewes or females have breasts but males do not. The udder of the female sheep is responsible for producing milk. Ram reproductive system. The circumference of the scrotum for immature rams should be 28.5 centimeters and 32 centimeters for mature rams. The quality of ram semen is generally very high, with a sperm concentration of around 3 billion sperm per milliliter. More than 30% of these sperms should be progressively mobile and more than 50% should have normal morphology. Sperm production lasts for 6 weeks and any check on the health of the ram during this period, fever, malnutrition, lameness, vacation time, flight, will kill the sperm. The serving capacity of healthy rams is rarely the reason for poor performance. The ewe. Ewe is a female sheep. Ewe, which is the female type of sheep, usually produces milk and gives birth to babies. A good ewe can give birth to 1 or 2 lambs. Of course, the feeding of the ewe has a great effect on the birth of babies and twins. The more appropriate nutrition is given to the ewes, the stronger the lambs are produced. Today, with the use of special animal feed prescribed for use during pregnancy, twinning or flushing has become a common thing among ewes. In other words, it can be said that ewes are female sheep that are more than 1 year old. They have the ability to get pregnant and give birth to 1 or 2 lambs. Ewes are pregnant for 5 months. Male lambs are called ram lambs and female lambs are called ewe lambs. Newborn lambs weigh 8 to 10 kilograms and are often born early in the morning. The ewe licks her lambs when they are born to dry and clean them. Ewes are very caring mothers and have deep bonds with their lambs. Any mother can recognize her lambs just by their kicks. How to reproduce ewe. During the breeding season, ewes naturally ovulate every 17 days, but ovulation is stimulated by changing feed, especially green feed or high-quality supplement, or RAM. One or more eggs are released from the ovary and enter the fallopian tube. Some breeds, especially merinos, are more likely to release an egg, but there is variation within breed. The number of released eggs is also affected by the season, nutrition, and body condition score. Estrus. Behavioral estrus is called when a ewe shows interest in a ram and stops for mating. The time the ewe spends in estrus varies from 30 minutes to 36 hours, which is mainly influenced by age, nutrition, and season. Ewes do not show estrus in the absence of a ram. Rams show interest in ewes in estrus, as they are attracted both by the behavioral signs of the ewe and by the smell of the released pheromones. The rams sniff the ewe's vulva area and perform flamen, which involves pulling the neck, turning the lips up and sniffing. This will stimulate the ewe to bond. After the end of the estrus period, the ewe cannot mate. Effects of temperature on reproduction. An increase in body temperature can reduce the fertility rate in ewe by reducing the ovulation rate, delaying heat cycles or increasing fetal mortality. Heat stress in males affects the process of spermatogenesis and can temporarily make bucks and rams sterile for 6 to 10 weeks. For these reasons, it is very important to help animals maintain their body temperature, especially during times of the year when the ambient temperature is high. Providing a simple shade in field production systems can reduce the negative effect of heat. Physiological mechanisms in the ram help regulate temperature. Estrus cycle. Upon reaching puberty, large domestic animals such as sheep and goats exhibit a pattern of polyestrous reproductive activity, repeated reproductive cycles. The estrus cycle, defined as the number of days between two consecutive estrus periods, EATS, averages 17 days in ewes and 21 days in males. Estrus symptoms in the ewe are not obvious unless a ram is present. As in pigeons, the vulva is swollen and redder than usual, and there is a mucus discharge, but it is difficult in ewes with tails or udder wool. All the listed signs may not be shown by a pigeon or ewe in estrus. The best confirmation of estrus is when the pigeon or ewe is standing while boarding. This is commonly called standing heat. The duration of estrus is variable as it is shorter in younger ewes and longer in older animals. Fertilization. When the ram serves the ewe, a dose of semen of about 1 ml, containing 3 billion sperms, is delivered to the body. Sperm passes through the vagina, passes through the cervix and reaches the uterus. Then the strongest sperms go to the fallopian tube, where they penetrate the waiting egg or egg, and fertilization takes place. The fertilized egg, embryo, sends a signal to the ovary to stop ovulation. The ovary then produces progesterone, a hormone that supports pregnancy. This also indicates behavioral estrus on the part of the ewe. The usual date will be 24 to 36 hours. The lambs. Lambs are the babies of sheep and rams. They start to suckle as soon as they are born, and it takes a few days for them to fully walk. Lambs grow and grow. The growth of male lambs is higher than the growth of female lambs due to the hormones secreted by the male gender. When they reach the age of 2 to 3 months, they have very soft and delicate wool. These beautiful and delicate wools are used to produce old clothes, and carpet is used. Lamb's wool is used to produce a type of carpet called felt. It is also used in making clothes because of the softness and delicacy of the wool. Lambs are very beautiful, and watching them jump makes the farmers happy and hopeful. Milk production. After the birth of the lambs, the ewe starts to nurse them. Each ewe usually has 1 or 2 breasts, so eventually it can give milk to 2 lambs. And in cases where the ewe gives birth to triplets, the other lamb is fed with a bottle of milk. These lambs have a good relationship with the farmer because they spend a lot of time with him. Lambs tend to drink milk in the early days of their lives, and gradually the decrease in the milk of the mother sheep and the growth of the lambs also start vegetarianism at the same time. The weight of the born lamb varies depending on the feeding of the mother animal and the breed of sheep. Usually, multiple bearing sheep give birth to smaller lambs in terms of weight. Milk. Milk is produced by female sheep or ewe. Sheep's milk is one of the foods that people pay attention to. It is rich in vitamins and mineral salts. Many products are produced from milk, such as yogurt, buttermilk, butter, Shiraz, cheese. Milk a sheep thickens and changes state during childbirth, which is called colostrum. Male sheep milk. Male sheep or rams do not have milk, and milk is basically produced by ewes. But in rare cases, it has been seen that a male sheep has taken off its udder and given milk. These cases, which are among the rare cases, happen to a goat. Sheep's milk. Sheep milk. The milk produced by sheep is both nutritious and delicious. The milk has a rich, mild, and slightly sweet taste. Its total amount is much more than cow's or goat's milk, and it has up to twice as many minerals as calcium, phosphorus, and zinc, and important B vitamins. It is sold both fresh and frozen in pint or 500 ml packs, and will keep in the deep freeze for at least 4 months. Sheep's milk. Lactose. Some people are highly allergic to lactose. If they consume their sheep's milk in the form of yogurt and a large amount of lactose is prepared with whey in hard cheese, the lactose turns into lactic acid. There is also evidence that the lactose in sheep's milk is more tolerable than other milks and is certainly worth a try. Comparison of mutton and beef. Mutton has more selenium, vitamin B3, vitamin B2, unsaturated fats and unsaturated fats, but beef is rich in vitamin B6, zinc, and iron. Beef covers your daily need for vitamin B6 by 19% more than lamb. Beef has 3 times less unsaturated fat than sheep. Lamb has 1.51 grams of unsaturated fat, while beef has 0.484 grams of fat. Beef has less saturated fat. The effect of animal feed on the taste of sheep meat. Mutton has a unique flavor, distinct from other popular red meats. Although flavor enhances the popularity of sheep, it can also be a barrier to consumer acceptance. The lack of familiarity with the taste of sheep meat in itself can be a barrier for some consumers, and the unpleasant flavors caused by animal feed may also jeopardize acceptance. Due to the instability of weather and rainfall patterns, sheep producers have turned to alternatives to the traditional pasture system. Historically, pasture has been the dominant feeding system for lamb production in Iran, Australia, and around the world. That's why the focus is on the shepherd taste in mutton. Pasture-related flavors may be perceived as normal by normal consumers to meat from pasture-fed sheep. However, these flavors may be unfamiliar to consumers of meat produced from grain-fed and other feed systems. Over the past few decades, studies examining the effects of different feeds on sheep meat quality have yielded variable responses from consumers ranging from no effect to unacceptable, reflecting the diverse and sometimes inconsistent effects of different forages. It shows the taste of mutton. Despite considerable research, there is no consensus that volatiles are necessary for the optimal aroma of sheep and how they differ from other red meats, for example, beef. In contrast, relatively little work has focused specifically on the non-volatile flavor components of lamb flavor. The effect of animal feed on sheep fat. Diet also affects the amount of muscle fat and its fatty acid composition in the meat, which has a direct effect on the juiciness and texture of the meat, as well as its taste and release when eaten. The effect of diet is not very simple and still needs to be learned. To better understand the effect of feed and related systems on the flavor of sheep meat, an integrated approach that includes all input variables is needed. The golden feed produced in Moneteb-Bistan has a great effect on preserving the natural taste and reducing the amount of meat fat. How to store mutton? How long does raw lamb last in the refrigerator or freezer? The exact answer to this question depends largely on storage conditions. Always keep lamb in the fridge. How long does raw lamb last after the sell-by date? After buying lamb, they can be refrigerated for 3 to 5 days. The sell-by date on the package may expire during storage, but lamb is safe to use if it has a sell-by date. Stays it has been saved correctly. When refrigerated, unopened raw lamb chops can be stored in the original store package. To maximize the shelf life of lamb, do not open package until ready to use. How long can you keep raw lamb at room temperature? Bacteria grow rapidly at temperatures between 40 and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. If the lamb remains at room temperature for more than 2 hours, it should be discarded. Freeze to further extend the shelf life of raw lamb. When freezing, place the lamb in the freezer before the number of days indicated for refrigeration have passed. To prevent freezer burn, you can maximize the shelf life of lamb in the freezer by covering the original package with weatherproof aluminum foil, plastic wrap, or freezer paper. How long does raw lamb last in the freezer? They retain their best quality for about 6 to 9 months, but remain healthy after that. Freezer times shown are for best quality preservation only. Lamb kept frozen continuously at 0 degrees Fahrenheit will remain safe indefinitely. How long does raw lamb last after freezing and thawing? Lamb chops that have been thawed in the refrigerator can be refrigerated for an additional 3 to 5 days before cooking. Lamb chops that have been thawed in the microwave or in cold water should be cooked immediately. How long does mutton last in the refrigerator after cooking? Cooked lamb usually stays good for 3 to 4 days in the fridge and 4 months in the freezer. How to recognize that raw lamb meat is harmful? The best way is to smell the lamb and look at it. Signs of bad lamb are a sour smell, dull color, and slimy texture. Discard any piece of mutton that smells or looks bad. How to increase your wool yield per sheep? Here are some things you can do to increase the wool yield from any sheep. Control for external parasites to prevent itching and rubbing that can reduce wool quality. This type of control is also essential for the overall health of your sheep. Take steps to prevent and control internal parasites so that sheep can fully benefit from their feed. Make sure your nutrition plan is balanced. The quality and quantity of food you feed your sheep directly affects the quality and quantity of their wool. Note that certain breeds, such as Lincolns and Lincoln crosses, may be pruned annually. Keep your herd healthy. Sheep that are sick or have a fever end up with weak spots in their wool. The correct way of Chinese wool. There are many good ways to handle wool before and after shearing to keep it clean and of good quality. Let's consider some tips on how to properly use wool. Cut in good condition whenever spring weather permits, do your shearing early, and count when shearing labor is available. If possible, in other words, if there are necessary housing facilities and suitable weather conditions, think about shearing before lambing. This means that you will be able to keep more animals in a certain space and it will be easier to observe the lamb. This also helps prevent shedding and reduces the risk of dyeing the wool. How to make Chinese wool and the right place. Cutting should be done on a clean and dry surface. If you want a surface that's more comfortable for the cutter and easier to clean, consider an 8-foot by 8-foot hardwood floor. You can build this surface with the following: 2 half-inch thick sheets of plywood measuring 4 feet by 8 feet including a 2x4 or 2x3 frame. Other surfaces you can use are a clean canvas over a clean concrete floor or an old rug. Cutting tips. The sheep must be dried before cutting. This is the case both near the skin and on the surface. If the wool is generally wet, it will cause spoilage and mold growth. After cutting each animal, sweep the area properly. This will help prevent dirt, grime, or other types of material from getting on the wool. The wool and tags must be separate from the rest of the animals. This separation should be done at the same time as cutting. Stop feeding the sheep for a few hours before cutting. If the sheep has just eaten, it will likely experience discomfort. Attempting to shear pregnant sheep that may soon be lambed is dangerous. It is important to keep the fleece in one piece as shearing occurs. I also recommend considering whether you want to shear your flock with an electric sheep shearer or with traditional shears. Each method has advantages and disadvantages, but today most farmers choose the electric route for speed and efficiency. Handling the wool after cutting. As a producer, you must be skilled in how to tie wool correctly, as well as how to roll and tie it. Proper fleece skirting includes removing dirty adult tags as well as dock wool. This prevents contamination of other stored wool from manure and urine stains. It also ensures clean wool. Make sure all sweat locks are gone. You can recognize them by their greasy or black appearance. They are generally found around the armpit areas of sheep. If you are dealing with bright wool, they will be easy to spot. It will be a little more time consuming to do this on dark wool, but it is still necessary. How to store wool after cutting. After cutting, spread the wool and then store the wool in a large ball with the newly cut part, as shown in the picture. This allows potential buyers to get the best view of the wool. Other wool storage tips: you should store all your wool in a clean, dry place until it is sent to market. Proper packaging and proper storage protect wool, which is vulnerable to moisture and a perishable commodity. Woolen bags should be used for packing loose and packed sheep's wool. You can purchase these bags from sources such as supply houses, wool pool managers and wool buyers. Use paper string to tie the sheep's wool. Plan for separate handling and packing of belly and tag fleeces, as well as brood, seeded, colored, spotted and dead fleeces. It is very important that the storage area is controlled in terms of humidity. Fluctuations in the relative level of humidity and density can severely damage sheep's wool. Dryness of the area is necessary. Too much moisture and humidity can easily lead to mold and other types of damage and shedding, and will significantly reduce the market value of your wool. Marketing to weavers and spinners of handcraft products made from wool is becoming increasingly popular in some areas of the United States. Weavers and spinners tend to prefer or even want a certain type of wool, such as long wools, clean back fibers, or other types of colored wools that can be mixed with plain white wools. This helps them achieve different natural colors of yarn. Weavers and spinners are a very promising market for wool producers. These artisans are willing to pay a high price for the types of wool they want. Sheep's wool. Spinning wool into yarn began about 5,000 years ago. A pound of wool can make 10 miles of thread. A year's growth of wool yields about 8 pounds of wool. Wool from British sheep can be classified into three main types: carpet wool, wool, and long wool, each with different uses. Sheep are slaughtered either in the early summer months or immediately before winter housing. Since sheep no longer shed naturally, shearing is necessary to prevent the animal from overheating indoors or outdoors during the hot summer months. How is wool graded and classified? Grading and classification of wool. In general, the sale price of wool is determined by the following characteristics: quality, or how free the wool is from foreign matter and its character or life class, or the length of the fiber or the main product grade, or the fineness of wool as a fiber. These designations determine which market and price point the wool will enter after being sold. Other factors can improve the marketability of the wool you produce on your farm. These include things like wool dyes, handloom weavers and fiber artists looking for naturally colored fibers may look for rare and unique dyes. And if someone has a special project and wants a lot of consistency, they might be looking for a large fleece from a sheep for a special jacket or other garment they are creating. Increase the value and quality of your wool product. This means preventing food, grain, or wood from getting into the wool itself. Keeping wool clean. Tips for keeping wool clean are: use special feeders to make sure that straw and hay do not reach the sheep's back. When moving feed, avoid carrying hay on the sheep when bringing it to the feeders. Do not hold on to the sheep while pouring the seed into the pans. Make sure that the wood particles never fall on the sheep because the wood particles are not separated by a machine. The difference between sheep and goats. Sheep, Ovis aries, are a species of domestic ruminant mammals that are raised for meat, milk, and wool. Sheep are usually larger than their goat relatives, Capra genus. Its horns, if any, are more different. It has scent glands on its face and hind legs. And the males do not have goat's beards. Sheep usually have short tails. In all wild species of sheep, the outer coat becomes hair, and underneath it is a short layer of thin wool, which is produced in the form of domestic sheep wool. Male sheep are called rams, female ewes and lambs are immature animals. Adult sheep weigh from about 35 to 180 kilograms, 80 to 400 pounds. Sheep should not be confused with goats. Sheep are different in many ways. Visual differences between sheep and goats include the goat's distinctive beard and separated upper lip. Sheep's tails hang down even when they are short or attached, while goats' tails are held up. Sheep breeds are also often studied naturally, both sexes and females, while naturally studied goats are rare. Males of the two species differ in that goats have a unique and strong odor during rutting, while rams do not. Poison. The hoof is the sole of the sheep's foot. It is very strong and acts like a shoe and protects the sheep's movement organs in contact with food, grass, and stones. Sheep hoof consists of two pieces stuck together. Maintaining the health of sheep is one of the concerns of many farmers. Why do sheep have poison? 1. Hoofs perform many functions, including supporting the animal's weight. 2. Eliminating the effect of weight and shocks when the hoofs hit the ground or surface. 3. Protection of tissues and bones inside the venom capsule. 4. And creating traction for animals. How is a healthy poison? A typical foot has a hard horn wall around the two toes, each with a softer horn at the base. In healthy sheep, the interdigital skin between the toes is pale pink and dry and has a layer of fine hair. The thickness of the horn is only 2 to 3 millimeters and is easily damaged by thorns or other sharp objects. So a normal foot has a wall horn that is usually longer than the sole. Sometimes the wall horn of the hoof wraps over the sole horn. Although this may not cause harm to the sheep, it is common to remove this twisted horn. About 50% of the farmers who were engaged in breeding have stopped this practice and as a result have seen fewer lame sheep. Instead of cleaning the sheep's hoof, think about checking the hoofs. Research has shown that clipping the legs of lame sheep with footing or heating is harmful because it delays healing and increases the risk of disease recurrence. Trimming equipment can carry infectious bacteria that can spread disease in your flock. Trimming may be required where the horn is deformed, but these sheep should be killed as soon as possible as they are likely to become lame again. Why shouldn't we correct the poison of sheep? Minimize correction if detection cannot be detected without cropping, minimize it. Wall horns grow at a rate of about 5 mm per month, and the length of a sheep's leg naturally changes with the seasons. Over the course of a year, growth often matches wear, so trimming is not necessary. In a healthy foot, the sole and wall of the horn are healthy without odor, heat, tenderness or detached horn. If the sheep is not lame and its legs seem reasonable, leave it alone. Reduction of field bacteria to prevent spread in the field. Consider high traffic areas, for example, gates and holes, where bacteria can spread. It is an infection. Isolate and promptly treat clinical cases. Remove persistently infected sheep. Chinese poison. Sheep hoofs are trimmed like human nails by using scissors. First, the hoof is completely cleaned and then the damaged and extra parts are removed. This practice is called Chinese poison. Because the poison is directly related to soil, water, and excrement, and there is a possibility of sharp objects sinking into it, it usually suffers from microbial and fungal diseases. Sheep hoof lameness disease. Lameness in sheep is a major cause of financial loss, costing the UK industry £28 million a year. This has serious welfare implications and negatively affects the public perception of sheep farming, with 3 million British sheep thought to be lame at any one time. In addition, 2/3 of antibiotic use in sheep is thought to be used to treat lameness. Reducing lameness has been identified as a key area in the fight against antimicrobial resistance. Most of the prevalence of lameness in sheep is caused by bacterial infections. Scald, interdigital dermatitis, and foot rot are caused by Dichelobacter nodosus, which can spread rapidly in temperate climates. Contagious bovine digital dermatitis, COD, is associated with treponeme bacteria introduced into infected sheep flocks, but many cod lesions also contain foot bacteria. Less common causes of lameness are non-infectious and include toe granulomas, white line, or toe abscesses, and crusted or enlarged hoofs. Features of sheep feed, and how to improve flock health. The type of sheep feed you use can make a big difference in the quality of your flock's production. As a main element in the agricultural industry, sheep is one of the first animals that humans have domesticated for use in agriculture. To this day, sheep are an important source of wool as well as meat and dairy products. Like cattle, poultry, horses, and other common livestock, sheep have specific nutritional needs that require careful consideration to achieve ideal productivity and health. Sheep benefit greatly from the addition of nutritional supplements. Most herds obtain the majority of their primary nutrition through foraging, but supplements will be necessary when nutritional requirements are not met. The role of sheep feed. Sheep feed is usually called ruminant feed. Ruminant animals are characterized by a digestive system that has multiple stomachs. Common ruminants include sheep, cattle, buffalo, goats, and deer. Ruminants also include more exotic animals such as giraffes and deer. Although ruminants share a number of biological characteristics, agricultural producers must only provide feed intended for the recipient species. A ruminant's unique digestive system involves a two-step process. Food is ingested and partially digested, resulting in a mixture of food and saliva called cod. The cod is returned in the animal's mouth and chewed until it is ready for complete digestion. Sheep feed ingredients. Like horses and cattle, sheep enjoy the ability to graze on hay and grass. In particular, sheep tend to enjoy fine, leafy hay, as opposed to the coarser strains that many farms use. Knowing this, many farmers feed their sheep and cattle at the same time using the same hay bales. Sheep are selected to eat finer grass through the feed, while cattle eat coarse hay. In general, sheep are able to consume all the basic nutrients they need from pasture grazing. For this reason, many farming operations only purchase sheep feed during the winter when pastures freeze and access to forage is limited. Sheep feed is specially formulated to provide 5 categories of nutrients needed by animals: water, energy, protein, vitamins, and minerals. The main ingredients of sheep feed: corn hay, vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, selenium, mineral salt, calcium, phosphorus. Sheep feed is usually produced in the form of grass, not pellets. This allows the sheep to consume food in a way that feels familiar. Common sheep feed additives. The use of additives in sheep feed can strengthen the health of the herd and also solve health problems for individual animals. Some of the most common feed additives for sheep are antibiotics, ionophores, and probiotics. Sheep feed antibiotics work like human antibiotics and provide vital protection against disease and illness. One of the most common antibiotics used in sheep feed is oxytetracycline. This substance protects pregnant ewes against diseases that can threaten the life of unborn lambs. Ionophores are specialized additives that help ruminants digest and use food. It also helps protect against harmful bacteria that sometimes enter the digestive tract of sheep, such as coccidia. Probiotics, like yeast, are tiny living organisms that improve digestion and immunity. Many types of sheep feed contain probiotics. The most effective types of additives: acidifiers, organic minerals, digestive enzymes direct feed microbes. In addition to health and production benefits, sheep feed additives can also be used to prepare the animal to participate in shows. High-quality additives improve muscle tone and overall appearance and contribute to a healthy sheep that looks great. Sheep breed. According to the region where they are grown and propagated, sheep have different types in different regions of the world, or in other words, they are of different breeds. The breed or the specific genetics of a sheep separates them, and they have different looks and shapes. For example, one breed is very tall and another breed is very short. These breeds have been known since ancient times, and each breed is given a special name. Domestic sheep differ from wild ancestors in shape, quantity, and quality of wool, color, size, milk production, and other characteristics. Most breeds of domestic sheep produce wool, while a few produce only hair, and wild sheep grow a combination of wool and hair. Several hundred different breeds of sheep have been developed to meet environmental conditions influenced by latitude and altitude, and to meet human needs for clothing and food. Sheep breeds with fine wool are usually bred only for wool production, while breeds with medium or long wool or hair only are bred for meat production only. Several crossbreeds have been created that produce high-quality wool and meat. Of the more than 200 breeds of sheep in the world, the majority are of limited interest except in local areas. Well, I have reached the end of the clip. I hope it is useful for you. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.